Allied industry groups including FEWA, NALP, SEA, and others have filed a joint lawsuit against the United States Department of Homeland Security, DHS, and the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services, USCIS. Sorry, that one's a little tricky. Allied industry groups including FEWA, NALP, SEA, and others have filed a joint lawsuit against the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. Welcome to the Profit Roadmap. I'm your host, Ryan, and this is the premier podcast created for field service pros to help you grow your business, stay on top of the latest trends, and help you provide even more value to the communities that you serve. We've just started 2025, and there's a lot of action already in field services. In today's episode, we'll be talking about industry news for all of field services, as well as a few updates centered around specific industries. Not to worry though, we'll have timestamps down in the show notes, so if you'd like to jump to an update for your industry, you'll be able to do so. As we go through, share your thoughts in the comments below or email us at profitroadmap@exploretechnologies.com. If you have any questions or if you'd like more information on any of the topics that we discussed today, let us know. Welcome to the Profit Roadmap. Let's start with the updates that affect everybody. On January 3rd, 2025, the NOSHA Act, a bill to abolish OSHA, was reintroduced to Congress. Regardless of whether or not it passes, this bill will likely challenge how OSHA standards are created, impacting service businesses like yours. The NOSHA Act, or the Nullify the Occupational Safety and Health Administration Act, is not a new bill. Originally, it was introduced back in November of 2021 to abolish OSHA. On January 3rd, 2025, it was reintroduced. If you're not familiar with OSHA, OSHA enforces anti-retaliation provisions of the OSHA Act and other federal whistleblower laws. It also provides support, training, outreach, education, and assistance. It also works collaboratively with state OSHA programs to ensure compliance and effectiveness. NOSHA was introduced in order to delegate power to the states, rather than setting a workforce standard at the federal level. This is being cited as an effort to tame OSHA's broad delegation of authority. More than likely, experts believe that the NOSHA Act won't pass. However, it is likely that this bill will challenge the way that OSHA standards are created. Historically, the NOSHA Act bill hasn't received much support. In addition, there are no co-sponsors to this bill, and as of yet, no companion bill has been introduced. If the NOSHA Act is passed in its entirety, then the workplace health and safety standards for your field service business will be set by your state. However, if the NOSHA Act doesn't pass, then you'll need to stay tuned to find out what changes are made, if any, to OSHA's legislative rulemaking authority. Beginning on March 12th, 2025, there will be a new 25% tariff on steel and aluminum. However, the repercussions of this are already starting to be seen in the field service industry. Distributors are already paying more due to an increased demand before the tariffs actually begin. These tariffs are also starting before planned tax relief begins, leaving contractors and consumers to immediately feel the effects of any price increases. Any potential tax benefits are months or potentially years away. Originally, the administration projected substantial revenue from the new tariffs, $1.2 trillion in 10 years from Canada and Mexico, plus an additional $200 billion from China. However, historically, Section 232 tariffs have raised the prices of steel and aluminum, even domestically. Prices have in some cases increased as much as 20% since the steel and aluminum tariffs were originally announced for both Mexico and Canada, both major steel exporters to the United States. And experts expect that the aluminum prices, as well as the steel prices, will stay elevated with the new tariffs. Initially, you might think this only impacts the HVAC and plumbing side of field services, but the ripple effects of these tariffs will extend much further, impacting all of field services. Consider the everyday materials you use that include aluminum and steel: work trucks, other vehicles, equipment like mowers and air conditioners, everyday tools, materials like piping and sheet metal, and even computers. The list goes on and on. Since the majority of U.S. manufacturers use exported steel and aluminum, the impacts of these tariffs will be seen both in your business costs, as well as the everyday consumer costs too. With the increase in demand, even domestic prices are currently inflated. It's also important to consider other neighboring industries that these tariffs might impact. For example, many field service businesses rely on new construction neighborhoods. With these new tariffs, there's a realistic possibility that the cost of new construction homes will increase, likely decreasing new home builds in the future due to rising costs. While the current outlook is, admittedly, pretty bleak, there is some hope in the future in the form of tax benefits. In the meantime, it is becoming increasingly important to prepare your service business for a challenging market as you wait for those tax breaks. Allied industry groups including FEWA, NALP, SEA, and others have filed a joint lawsuit against the United States Department of Homeland Security, DHS, and the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services, USCIS. Sorry, that one's a little tricky. Allied industry groups including FEWA, NALP, SEA, and others have filed a joint lawsuit against the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, DHS, and the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Service, USCIS, over a rule that governs H-2A and H-2B guest worker visa programs. The rule in question is known as the Modernizing H-2 Requirements, Oversight, and Worker Protections Rule. In short, it allows the DHS to blacklist employers for illegal fees paid by H-2 workers, where, in some cases, employers may be unaware or have no control over what happens in other countries. Also, the rule allows DHS to blacklist employers based on previous violations that don't involve H-2 program participation. The lawsuit seeks to have the rule vacated, citing that it, in the words of NALP, violates the Congressional Review Act by approving disapproved blacklisting rules, and is arbitrary and capricious in violation of the Administrative Procedure Act. These allied industry groups believe that the rule gives the DHS labor law oversight, which isn't what Congress intended, citing that it's redundant and wasteful. There's also a concern of liability being imposed on employers and employees that are correctly using the H-2B program. As of February 2025, the Department of Energy, DOE, postponed all future HVACR efficiency standards, which include central air conditioners, walk-in coolers, freezers, gas instantaneous water heaters, commercial refrigeration equipment, washers, dryers, general service lamps, and air compressors. It's important to note that there are currently no finalized air conditioner efficiency standards to delay. This means that it doesn't undo the standard that went into place 2 years ago. The DOE feels that postponing these mandates gives power back to the consumer. Their goals are to decrease cost, provide more choices, and improve the quality of home appliances, providing more options for contractors and consumers. The length of this postponement is unclear. However, this postponement will reduce the compliance burden that many HVACR businesses are facing, giving businesses like yours time to adjust their operations in order to become compliant. Congress is currently considering more permanent legislation changes to provide long-term solutions, so it's important to stay tuned. There's been some buzz around the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, dropping some eco-friendly bombshells on the HVACR industry. Brace yourself for two major rules under the American Innovation and Manufacturing, or AIM, Act, designed to kick hydrofluorocarbons to the curb and make our air a little bit fresher. Keep in mind that some of these rules might be adjusted with the new administration. Rule number 1 is technology transitions, and rule number 2 is HFC refrigerant management. The EPA rolled out the finalized technology transitions rule, which went into effect December 26th of 2023. This rule has its sights set on slashing global warming potential, referred to as GWP, of refrigerants used in air conditioning and refrigeration gear. The biggest impact so far is the ability to install R410A systems, which came to an end on January 1st of 2025. Installation is prohibited after that date. With the phase out of R410A, there are several good alternatives for air conditioner systems, including R32, R452B, R454B, and with the latest legislation changes, the lower the GWP, global warming potential, the better. ACA and the wider HVAC community are trying to establish a sell-through period date for both residential and light commercial use of R410A. Now, compliance dates are scattered like confetti, ranging from 2025 to 2028, depending on the application. Just remember that this rule covers both the birth, or manufacture, and the baptism, the installation, of HFC equipment. Here's some dates to circle on your HVAC calendar. January 1st, 2025, installation of stationary residential and light commercial air conditioning and heat pumps must use refrigerants with less than 700 GWP. And then also January 1st of 2026, installation of stationary air conditioning and heat pumps must use refrigerants with less than 700 GWP. The greater the GWP value, the greater the heat trapping effect on a specific gas is here on Earth, in comparison with carbon dioxide. GWP values for ozone-depleting substances can range from 5 to as high as 14,400. The EPA also dropped the HFC refrigerant management rule, which is still in the proposal stage, meaning that the provisions are subject to change. But you can sort of think of this HFC rule as sort of a Sherlock Holmes for HVAC systems, sniffing out leaks, demanding repairs, and promoting good behavior. The leak repair requirements are a little complicated, so take note. If your system has a refrigerant charge of 15 pounds or more, with a GWP of 53 or greater, you've got 30 days to fix those leaks, or 120 if you need an industrial shutdown. And yes, there are leak rate thresholds, 20% for commercial refrigeration, 30% for industrial process refrigeration, and 10% for comfort cooling appliances. Automatic leak detection systems are mandatory for certain new and used appliances. For any that have over 1,500 pounds or more of HFC, or HFC substitutes with a GWP over 53. No ALDs are needed for comfort cooling appliances. They're chill, primarily because of lower leak rates. The U.S. Department of Energy has introduced a new rule that could change how tankless water heaters are installed. This rule would ban all non-condensing gas-fired tankless or instantaneous water heaters starting in 2029. HVAC companies like yours need to understand this change in order to prepare for its impact. Keep in mind that this rule might also see some adjustment with the new administration. In December of 2024, the DOE announced a new rule that will ban non-condensing gas-fired tankless water heaters starting in 2029. This means that only condensing models will be allowed after that date. The goal is to improve efficiency and reduce emissions. Switching to tankless water heaters brings some challenges. Condensing heaters need special venting materials to handle acidic exhaust gases. This often means replacing existing vents, which could be difficult in older buildings. These heaters also produce condensation, which needs to be drained properly. Installing new drainage systems can be complex and costly. Condensing models may also require more space for venting and drainage systems, which could be a problem in tight areas. To get ready for this change, there are a few things that your company should do. Ensure your technicians know how to install and service condensing water heaters. Provide training on new venting and drainage requirements. Before installation, check if a customer's home can support a condensing water heater. Look at venting paths, draining options, and space availability. Start stocking condensing models with the necessary materials for installation, like special vents and drainage pipes. Make sure you keep up with the DOE updates and industry news to stay ahead of any further changes. It's also important to inform your customers about the upcoming change. Explain the benefits of condensing water heaters like energy savings and lower utility bills. For instance, tankless water heaters can save up to 24 to 34% more energy than a conventional storage tank heater. You'll also want to communicate and be honest about potential increases in installation costs due to new venting and drainage needs. In some instances, more than double or triple the heater and installation cost than its storage tank counterpart. To help with higher costs, consider providing financing options or information for customers about rebates. And there you have it, our industry update for you guys. If you'd like to find out more information about any of the topics that we discussed here today, be sure to check out the show notes for specific links. And as always, thanks for tuning into the Profit Roadmap. I'll catch you in the next one.